All right, so have you ever like felt that sound? You know, the one that just kind of vibrates through you?
Oh, yeah.
That raw energy that just grabs hold and it just doesn't let go? Well, that's the sonic force we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Bass house, and it's more than just like a passing trend.
Right.
This sound's taken over both the underground and mainstream, like with a vengeance.
Absolutely. It's become such a dominant force in electronic music.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear it, you just get it.
You get it right away. So
Yeah.
to get into the heart of bass house, you know, you've provided some amazing material for us to dig into. We've
Yeah.
got this in-depth article that breaks down, you know, like the definition, the history,
Yeah.
the major players,
Right.
the trends and where it might be going.
Yeah.
We've also got Beatport's list of the top-selling bass house artists of 2024.
Probably the hottest right now.
Yeah, so we can really see who's, you know, making waves at this very moment.
Exactly.
And we've got HouseWeb's list of the best bass house DJs of 2024.
Yes, some of the best performers out there.
Absolutely. So, as always, our mission is to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
You know, pull out the really insightful bits
Yeah.
and give you a clear, engaging, and fun understanding of bass house.
Yeah, we're going for that focused, insightful exploration.
Yeah.
So you can really grasp this dynamic genre,
Yeah,
you know, and its significance.
totally. So let's get into it. When we say bass house, what do we actually mean? What defines this sound?
Okay, so bass house, at its core, is a subgenre of house music
Okay.
that really gained traction in the early to mid-2010s.
Yeah,
And the name itself, you know, kind of gives you a clue.
it does. Yeah.
The defining feature is that heavy, often distorted bass line,
Yeah.
particularly during the drop.
Okay.
That bass takes command.
Yeah, it's not just any low-end rumble. It's
Right.
The article really emphasizes this raw,
Yeah.
almost abrasive quality.
Yeah.
How do they get that?
You know, that grittiness that comes from really pushing those bass frequencies,
Okay.
overdriving them,
Yeah.
adding distortion, saturation to give it that aggressive edge.
Yeah, but even with that, you know, intense bass, it's still built on that familiar four-on-the-floor beat.
Of course, yeah, the backbone of house music.
They're right. It's still got to make you want to dance.
It's that consistent, danceable pulse.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we've got the powerful bass,
Yeah.
still rooted in house. What about the tempo? Is there a typical range we see with bass house?
Generally, you're looking at 110 to 130 beats per minute,
Okay.
with a lot of tracks around that 128 sweet spot.
Yeah.
You know, that seems to be the tempo that provides the energy for the dance floor,
Yeah.
but also lets those bass frequencies resonate.
Yeah, totally. And it's not just a straight beat.
All right.
There's like rhythmic complexity going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
Syncopated bass lines are huge,
Yeah.
creating these off-kilter rhythms
Yeah.
that give it a real sense of groove.
Yeah. And I've noticed like offbeat hi-hats and percussion.
All the time, yeah, adding to that energetic, almost shuffling feel.
Yeah, it's interesting because the article mentions that bass house draws from a whole bunch of bass-heavy genres.
And it really does.
You know, influences from dubstep, UK garage, even a little bit of rhythm.
It's a real melting pot.
How do all those different styles like feed into the bass house sound?
Well, think about UK garage, right?
Yeah.
Known for those skippy, broken beat rhythms.
Yeah.
That prominent sub-bass. You hear those in bass house for sure.
SDT.
And then dubstep came along in the late 2000s, early 2010s
Huge.
with that wobble bass, those growls.
Yeah.
That really influenced bass house's focus on aggressive low frequencies.
Yeah, but it's not just like a copy and paste. It's like integrated into...
Just blended in, yeah, into a more consistent, danceable groove.
Yeah, and even rhythm,
Yeah.
you know,
Sometimes a little touch.
with those repetitive heavy bass patterns.
Yeah, it can add to that hypnotic feel.
Totally. So when we talk about the actual sounds of bass house, what are some of the trademarks?
You'll hear a lot of distorted bass.
Yeah.
Pushing the limits of your speakers.
Yeah.
A lot of cutting-edge synth sounds.
Yeah.
Creating unique textures.
I love that.
And often a lot of manipulation of vocal samples.
Oh, yeah. They chop them up.
Chop them up, pitching them, using them almost as percussion or melody.
That's so cool.
And, of course, the drop.
The drop, that moment of build-up and release.
You can't forget the drop.
So central to the electronic music.
Yeah.
How does it function in bass house?
It's often marked by a brief silence
Yeah.
or a stripping back of the layers, especially the bass and the beat.
Okay.
Building that anticipation.
Yeah.
And then everything crashes back in.
Yeah.
Bass hits you right in the chest.
I love it.
Classic technique for maximum energy on the dance floor.
So we've got the DNA of bass house. Now let's go back in time a bit.
Okay.
Where did this sound come from and how has it changed over time?
As you said, it's solidified as a genre in the mid-2010s.
Yeah.
but its roots go back further to the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
That's where you have artists like Basement Jaxx.
Yeah.
Their 1999 album Remedy.
Yeah.
It's often cited as an early influence,
Okay.
blending funky house rhythms with UK garage elements
Okay.
and that focus on bass.
So even back then, they were playing with that heavier sound.
They were definitely exploring, yeah.
What other genres were like paving the way for bass house?
UK garage was huge.
Yeah.
Especially its faster, more intense offshoot speed garage.
Okay.
They were all about complex, syncopated rhythms and big bass lines.
Yeah. And then dubstep exploded.
Dubstep changed everything.
Yeah.
In the late 2000s, early 2010s, with its wobble bass and those growls,
Yeah.
had a massive impact on electronic music.
Totally.
And those textures definitely found their way into early bass house.
Yeah, you can hear it.
For sure.
What else was going on?
Fidget house and electro house were big.
Okay.
With their high-energy distorted sounds.
Yeah.
Those wonky synths, those sharp bleeds.
Yeah.
Created a more abrasive and energetic sound.
Yeah.
And then in the early 2010s, you had bass-heavy ghetto house.
Okay.
And EDM-infused future house.
Yeah.
Really pushing the boundaries of house rhythms and powerful bass.
So it was like this perfect storm of
convergence.
all these different things coming together.
Yeah.
So the article mentions that bass house didn't just develop in one place.
Right.
Different scenes around the world kind of contributed to how it evolved, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the UK,
Yeah.
you had this tendency towards a darker, deeper sound.
Yeah.
Rooted in that UK garage heritage.
Over in Europe.
Europe, particularly artists like Hi-Lo,
Yeah.
more of an electro influence,
Okay.
often with a melodic edge.
And then the U.S.?
The U.S. went for a heavier, more aggressive sound,
Yeah.
inspired by dubstep.
So it's so interesting how these different geographical locations impacted the sound.
Totally shaped it in different ways.
And how has the sound itself evolved since those early days?
Initially, a lot of tracks had this super dominant bass pattern,
Yeah.
taking up the whole low-frequency spectrum during the drop.
Yeah.
All about that raw power.
Raw power.
But more recently,
Yeah.
and you hear the influence of tech house here,
Okay.
there's been a shift towards separating the bass pattern from the melody,
Oh.
allowing for more intricate sound design.
Okay, so it's not just that wall of bass anymore.
It's evolved. Yeah, more nuanced.
So we've looked at the origins and the evolution now. Let's talk about the people.
Yeah.
The artists who've shaped the bass house sound.
Right, the architects of the sound.
Who are the key players in this story?
Well, you had those pioneers like Basement Jaxx, Choi R.I.D. laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
But as it gained momentum, you had artists like Jauz, Chami F-Word,
Yeah.
really popularizing it.
Yeah, and AC Slater's name comes up a lot.
Oh, all the time.
You know, he seems like a central figure.
He really is. He's considered a pivotal figure in the scene.
Yeah.
Often credited with coining the term night bass.
Yeah.
Which describes his style,
Okay.
blending house grooves with those heavier bass elements.
Yeah.
And his label has been incredibly important
Yeah.
in supporting so many bass house artists.
Yeah. And Jauz really helped bring bass house to a bigger audience.
Absolutely. He was key
Right.
in bringing it from the underground clubs to those main stages
Yeah.
at festivals.
Yeah. So Beatport's top-selling bass house artists of 2024.
Yeah.
This gives us a snapshot of who's really leading the scene.
A real-time look.
Yeah.
At the top, we've got Odd Mob,
Okay.
followed by Omnum and Hyperbeam.
Okay.
Then you see established names like Malaa AC Slater,
Yeah.
Chami Bishops Via Africa, Gorgon City, even Steve Angelo.
Wow. That's a huge mix of both established and new artists.
It really is, yeah.
And then we have HouseWeb's list of the best bass house DJs.
Right, a different perspective.
Yeah, so who's on their list?
They put Knock 2 at the top,
Okay.
followed by Habstract, AC Slater again showing his influence,
Yeah.
Cheyenne Giles and Michael Sparks.
So it's cool to see those different perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, who's selling the most and who's really killing it in their live sets. The article also mentions a bunch of other artists who've really shaped the genre.
It's like a who's who of bass house.
Yeah, it is.
You've got Joy Righty, Efford Habstract, Chami Malaa,
Yeah.
Crystal Enzo Taiki New Light, Jaded Low Steppa. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, it really is.
Hilo, which is Oliver Heldens and Chami together.
Oh, wow.
Skrillex, Dresso, BJOU, Dr. Fresh.
Yeah.
Nostalgics, Kirby Sick Dope Wax, Motif, Moxie Brohug,
Okay.
Destructo, and the duo Fly With Us, which is AC Slater and Chris Lorenzo again.
It's amazing how much talent there is in this genre.
So much talent constantly pushing the sound forward.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we keep seeing names like AC Slater, Jauz, Joyride, Halfstrack.
Yeah, they're the heavy hitters.
They're the ones who are really making a lasting impact.
Yeah, their influence is undeniable.
But then we also see all these new names popping up.
Right, and that's what's exciting.
Yeah.
It shows that the scene is healthy and evolving.
Yeah, totally so.
Yeah.
Behind every great music movement, there are the labels.
Right, the support system.
Yeah, so let's talk about the record labels that are nurturing and spreading the bass house sound.
They're essential. They're the curators, the tastemakers, the promoters.
Yeah.
They give artists a platform.
Yeah.
And help build that genre identity.
Yeah, and we've talked about Night Bass, founded by AC Slater.
Of course.
A real driving force.
Absolutely a powerhouse.
And then there's Confession.
Right.
Chami's label.
Yeah.
They seem to have a very specific sound.
They do. Confession is known for that heavier, darker, more bass-driven sound within bass house.
Yeah, and Bite This.
Yeah, Jauz's label.
Which is like...
They're all about high-energy, festival-ready tracks.
Yeah, it's like they've each carved out their own territory.
Yeah, their own niche.
So what other labels are really pushing bass house forward?
So many. There's Boxicats, Realm Records, Dim Mak.
Yeah.
Late checkout at Turner Records, Fly With Use.
Okay.
Which is the label arm of AC Slater and Chris Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Hood Politics Records.
Uh-huh.
Slater Sounds, which is AC Slater's other imprint.
So wow.
Your bingo bass. This ain't Bristol D&D recess.
Okay.
And what's cool is you're seeing bigger mainstream labels.
Yeah.
Like Insomniac Records, DMPD, RCRDS.
Yeah.
Big Beat Armada Spinnin' Records.
Yeah.
They're all embracing bass house.
That says a lot about the genre's appeal.
Right. It's not a niche thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's breaking into the mainstream.
Totally. And we see a lot of artist-run labels.
So many.
In bass house.
Yeah.
Which really shows that community.
Yeah, that sense of community and creative control.
Yeah. And UKF, you know, they're huge tastemakers for bass music.
Yeah, massive platform.
They've released UKF bass house compilations.
Yeah, they've really helped solidify its presence.
Okay, so we know who's making the music and where it's coming from now. Let's zoom in on the present.
Okay.
What's defining bass house right now? What are the trends and the popular sounds that are dominating?
Well, it's enjoying a huge surge in popularity right now.
Yeah, it is.
Both underground and in the mainstream.
Yeah.
It's high energy. Those infectious rhythms have made it a staple.
Yeah.
On dance floors worldwide.
Totally. And what's really exciting is the constant innovation and the experimentation.
The artists are constantly pushing boundaries.
Yeah. And the article mentions this trend of incorporating influences from other genres.
Yeah, they're blending all sorts of stuff.
What are some of the really cool cross-pollinations happening?
We're seeing a lot of techno and UK bass influences being woven into bass house.
Yeah.
Leading to some really interesting sonic explorations.
I love it.
Blurring those genre lines.
Yeah, and Beatport's top-selling bass house tracks of 2024.
Yeah.
This gives us a real-time look at what's hot right now.
Yeah, what's resonating.
What stands out to you on that list?
It really highlights the diversity of the sound.
Okay.
You have tracks like Get Busy by Odd Mob and Sean Paul.
Yeah.
Which is catchy, almost melodic.
Yeah.
Alongside heavier tracks like Dominator by Biscuits Human Resource and Max Milo.
Okay.
Then there's All Day, All Night by Hyperbeam Omnom and Odd Mob. And Biggest Regret by Bezu Africa and Gorgon City.
Okay.
Blending energy with groove.
So it's not just one thing. It's like
there's a spectrum. Yeah.
A whole spectrum of sounds.
Exactly.
And the fact that Beatport recognizes bass house as its own genre.
That's huge.
Right.
Yeah, it's a sign of its maturity.
Yeah.
It's not just a subgenre anymore. It's established.
So as genres mature, they start to branch out into subgenres.
Right, they evolve and splinter.
So what's happening with bass house? What kind of subgenres are we seeing?
It's happening organically as artists explore the sound.
Yeah.
We've talked about the UK's darker style.
Yeah.
Europe's electro influence.
Yeah.
There are discussions about different shades of bass house.
Okay.
Some leading towards melodic synth-driven sounds.
Yeah.
Often associated with labels like STMPD, RCRDS.
Okay.
While others prefer that harder bassline-focused sound.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of speed garage.
No, it's constantly changing.
Always evolving.
So what other established genres have a close connection with bass house?
Electro house is a big one.
Yeah.
You could argue that some modern bass house is almost indistinguishable from electro house.
Yeah.
Tech house has also influenced it.
Okay.
Especially in terms of groove and sound design.
Yeah.
Then you have G house or ghetto house.
Okay.
Sharing those raw, bass-heavy, vocal-driven roots. Brazilian bass and slap house sometimes get mentioned.
Okay.
but they have their own distinct characteristics.
Right.
Speed house is emerging,
Okay.
a faster, more high-energy offshoot,
Okay.
usually 140 to 150 BPM
Yeah.
with those bouncy rhythms.
And UK bassline.
A clear ancestor
Yeah.
to some bass house styles.
Yeah, and you hear elements of crap dubstep breakbeat.
Yeah, it's all in the mix.
Even drum and bass.
Yeah, real reflection of the artist's diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then, of course, night bass.
Right.
AC Slater's signature blend.
Yeah.
It's like a whole web of connections and influences.
It really is.
So how do you even tell these styles apart?
It's subtle differences in the bass frequencies.
Yeah.
The tempo, the swing, the overall aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's something you develop an ear for
You do.
the more you listen.
So we got to talk about some specific tracks.
Yeah, let's get into the music.
What are some essential tracks and mixes for someone who wants to dive into bass house?
You have those early influential tracks, like Valentino Khan's Deep Down Low,
Yeah.
often cited as foundational,
Oh, yeah.
Jauz's Rock the Party,
Yeah.
and Joyride's Flow and Hot Drum.
Okay.
Skrillex and Hamstrack's Chicken Soup is a must-listen.
Yeah.
And, of course, those top-selling tracks of 2024.
Yeah, give you a sense of the current sound.
Exactly.
And the article mentions these, like, filthy bass house tracks.
Yeah, the ones that really get the hardcore fans going.
Yeah. What are some examples?
You've got DJ Snake and Moxie's Pago.
Okay.
A lot of the harder stuff from Mercer and Malai.
Yeah.
AC Slater's Bass Inside.
Okay.
Pretty much anything by Joyride.
Yeah.
And some of Crank That's remixes.
They really push it.
That push the boundaries, yeah.
Yeah. So curated playlists on Apple Music.
Yeah.
Beatport charts.
Great ways to discover new music.
Yeah.
And tons of mixes and live sets on YouTube.
So you can listen, but bass house seems like a genre that's meant to be experienced live.
Oh, absolutely.
Where are the best places to really immerse yourself in that bass house energy?
It has a massive live scene.
Yeah.
You'll find bass house at all the major festivals.
Okay.
Ultra Coachella EDC Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Beyond Wonderland Project Glow.
Mm.
BC.
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden Kingdom. Hard Summer Lollapalooza.
So if you're going to a big festival, you're going to hear some bass house.
You're going to find it, yeah.
Yeah.
And Insomniac events, they have dedicated pages on their website
Okay.
for bass house and house music events.
Yeah.
Listing upcoming shows.
Cool.
Los Angeles and Southern California.
Yeah.
Really vibrant scenes.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot in Costa Mesa, Las Vegas, Orlando, San Francisco,
Okay.
Santa Ana, Washington, D.C., Miami,
Okay.
and websites like 19arts.info and edmtrain.com.
Yeah.
They're great for finding local events.
So whether it's a massive festival or a smaller club night,
Yeah.
there are so many opportunities to experience bass house live.
It's all about that collective experience.
Yeah.
Feeling that bass.
Okay, so we've really gone deep into bass house.
We have.
We've talked about its definition, its history, the key players,
Right.
the current trends, the subgenres,
Yeah.
and where to experience it live.
It's been a journey.
It is, so to sum it all up, what are the essential things to remember about bass house?
That heavy, distorted bass line,
Yeah,
driving that classic house rhythm.
yeah,
But it's that fusion of influences from dubstep and UK garage
yeah.
that make it so unique.
Because what makes it special?
And it emerged in the mid-2010s, building on decades of electronic music innovation.
Yeah,
Artists like AC Slater, Jauz, Joyride
yeah.
have been crucial in defining the sound,
Mm-hmm.
with support from labels like Night Bass and Confession
Yeah.
and its growing popularity. And those new sounds and subgenres
Mm.
all point to a bright future for bass house.
It's more than just a trend. It's like this evolving force in electronic music.
It really is.
And it's amazing how bass house blends all these different elements from bass music.
It is melting pot.
It really makes you wonder what other crazy hybrid sounds will come out of this genre.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, as it continues to evolve and, like take on new influences.
Absolutely.
So that's something to keep in mind as you explore the world of bass house.
Keep those ears open.
Yeah, keep your ears open for sure.
Yeah.
And that's it for this deep dive into bass house. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you in the next one.